Welcome to Cut to the Chase, where we talk about compelling legal, regulatory, and public interest information and news. Your host is Greg Goldfarb, an attorney, entrepreneur, investor, and activist.
All right, folks, it's time for our favorite podcast, Cut to the Chase. My name is Greg Goldfarb, and in light of this being Cut to the Chase's first live show, I hereby introduce to you my podcast producer, Rita Richa. How are you doing, Rita?
I'm doing good. How are you, Greg? Are you excited for your first live stream?
I'm excited, nervous. I'm sure there's a few other words, but that's besides the point. Are you ready to rock and roll? Because we're going to talk today mainly about law firms, lawyers getting into the podcasting world. And this also applies to other industries and why you might want to use a producer. Right?
Yeah, basically, I'm going to use your voice to say it's a done deal. We're ready to go.
Done deal. Done deal.
Done deal. Yeah. So, okay. In addition to this being my first live show and all the anxiety surrounding that, I've also switched over from Zoom to StreamYard, which is going to enable me to do like sound overs and, cute little things and like done deal and case closed and all that kind of fun stuff. And I'm going to have a little button that says subscribe.
Yes.
So you can just click that and get me more numbers, make me more relevant. And all this is because of Rita, my producer. I never would have known this, if, on my own. So Rita, tell us a little bit about yourself, a little bit about your background. You actually do have a background in the legal space. So I'm done talking. Go ahead.
All right. Sounds good. Thank you for segueing it over to me, Greg. I feel so excited to be with you on your show. I've been producing your show behind the scenes for, we're definitely over 50 episodes at this point that we've done together. But not only do we work together, I specialize in podcast production in the B2B space. So my company is called Reignite Media. I am the founder and what I like to call the executive producer because I want to work with other executives to help them produce the content of their dreams to make their business dreams come true. So essentially, what Reignite Media was born from is prior to going off of my own business, around the pandemic 4 years ago, I was working at an agency specializing in B2B podcast production. And I was an account manager there at the time. So I wasn't quite producer yet, but I got to learn a lot about the difference between podcast producers, editors, what works with shows, what doesn't work with shows, and really the setup and project management side of content, which a lot of people don't really realize goes into content creation until they start working and then they go on their own, get a little overwhelmed, realize there's so many moving pieces. So from my experience there, I was able to translate it into my own work to be more hands-on and be a creative partner and essentially collaborator on the shows that I work with. I've done probably over the team and I have produced probably over 200 episodes in total at this point. And, the cool thing about the whole podcasting and how I really, really got into it is I was actually working at a law firm as a first intake specialist, then marketing coordinator. And at the time when I was working at Eckert and Associates, the firm was really trying to improve their content efforts. They were kind of stuck in let's post a blog on our website, or, hey, let's ask an author to contribute to this blog that we have, or ask for blog swaps. And they were just kind of doing the same thing and getting the same results. And I started noticing that this was around 2017, 2018 or so, that I started noticing very quickly that media was changing so fast. Like just writing a blog wasn't really doing anything anymore for businesses. So I mentioned to the head attorney, Kelsey, and she graciously accepted that we should start trying to get on maybe satellite radio radio or other podcasts, or maybe do a webinar, and like let's start really learning and digging into the other forms of digital media that are out there that we aren't really leveraging yet. And today we actually were able to get her on a spot on a radio show on satellite radio on SiriusXM. And I'd never been in an environment where I was a professional recording like radio room or anything. And she actually invited me to come with her as her marketing lead. And she flew us up all the way to Kentucky to the station, and I got to walk in with her and see what a recording room looked like firsthand. And that was the moment that I realized that I I just knew that I wanted to do podcasting or radio. At the time, I thought radio because podcasting wasn't as hot as it is now. And it was so exciting because it just seeing her talk and be herself on radio was really awesome. Because the truth is a lot of attorneys, I mean, she was busy as heck. Like you're busy as heck. Everyone's busy. Nobody has time to hop on and do a TikTok dance for their firm. Like it's not everybody's, jam. You know what I mean? So she wasn't really excited to be the face of her law firm. She just wanted to share and share her knowledge and get clients. Like she wasn't trying to dance.
Go viral.
Yeah. So, that's why I suggested maybe doing radio or webinars or podcasting, because as an attorney, like she's able to educate, like she can go up in front of a judge and discuss and be very eloquent. But the second we put a camera on her, it started to get in her head because she felt like she had to be on or make content. So I fell in love with the medium of podcasting because I felt that it helped business leaders achieve what it is that they're trying to do, which is educate, entertain, and inspire in a way that doesn't feel like we have to be on. We're just having conversations. I bet you have had the same conversation with the same type of person over and over and over again. And that's what I help people do is I help people take podcasting as a medium for their business to help build their brand and also create content more consistently and not have to sit down and think, oh my gosh, what am I going to post today? Which is the bane of anybody's existence when you're trying to run an entire business. So yeah.
Okay. Now, lawyers and a lot of other people don't have a lot of patience. So
Right.
maybe people are here, they're like, okay, and I need to know the two questions that I think I want to focus on in this episode, and we can elaborate, but I want to hear like right out of the gate, is podcasting for lawyers or
Yes.
law firms? And should podcasters, whether they be lawyers, law firms, or in other industries, or maybe just, you're a consultant for whatever, use podcasting? Is it a useful, you're going to get something out of it that's worthy?
Right. That's a really great question. Thank
So
you.
let's
Matt.
answer just briefly. Give me the briefest answers to start with, and then we
Yeah.
can talk about it.
Is podcasting for lawyers? Yes. If you are somebody that doesn't have a lot of time or patience, you want to sit down once, twice, 3 times a month for an hour, talk to somebody and make content from it and be done with it and repurpose it, great. Is podcasting something that can be used for other businesses? Yeah, it's awesome. It's wonderful. It's not for you if you don't like having long conversations and you don't want to be the face of your company, because you basically inevitably will have to as a host, because your audience wants to connect with you as a host. And great hosts like Joe Rogan and, there's all these celebrities now that have their own podcasts. Yeah, Greg Goldfarb, cough, cough. They have great personalities and they're not shy. So if you're a little shy and you're just don't have the patience to, want to consistently do it, you're not going to enjoy it. You have to commit to it. And Greg can speak to the commitment side of podcasting. It's not like a one-time, conference that you attend, take a couple pictures and then be done. It really is something that you're continuously evolving and working on, which is why working with a producer makes it so much easier. Because if you just send your recorded content to an editor and then get the edits back, there's still a lot of decisions you have to make. How am I going to market this? Where does my show live? Is this going to do anything for my brand? What do I want the message of my content to be? All those questions that keep you as a business owner up at night. You're going to keep asking yourself those questions unless you have somebody to really work with and kind of keep yourself accountable as well. And that's how I feel, at least in our working relationship, Greg, that we work really well together. If whatever producer that you find, you have to be able to, like, I don't know, actually enjoy working with them, because you're going to be seeing them a lot.
Yeah, exactly. And I mean, I would imagine you probably have listened to more of my podcast than anybody else, but that's, besides my girlfriend, I think so. I don't even know. I'm going to have to interrogate her, but, all right. So, one of the things that my mother had lots of famous sayings, but one of them was, you got to spend money to make money. So obviously, people are like, oh, are you making money on your podcast? And well, how are you making money on your podcast? And I'm like, well, no, actually I'm spending more money than I'm making. Now, I mean, I kind of tongue in cheek or whatever, but you do have to spend a little money. And the issue about time, how much time you're taking, not only just doing people are like, oh yeah, you get on the mic, you talk for half an hour, whatever. No, I mean, there's a lot of research to keep a show going, week after week, trying to find good content. You really got to be spending time coming up with, I get pitched, I'm looking into the background of a guest. Is this a topic I want? Then I got to research, I got to look at their website, reading articles and all that. So there's a little bit, it's more than just, some people can just go on and talk and I guess have a successful show. But there's a couple, I want to get into some of the nitty gritty parts of, and things to think about when you're doing, if you're going to jump into the podcast. Everybody's like, oh, you got a face for radio, whatever. Maybe I do. I don't know, but I'm leaning more towards video. Is it in either or, is it both? Where are, because some people are shy, they don't want the microphone. They don't want the camera on their face, but they can talk,
I think it's an either or. To decide whether or not you want to have an audio only podcast or a video only podcast has been a question that I've been getting this entire year. But what I would answer is record with the intent to start with audio only for the full episode, but have the video recording there so that you can at least have your guest be in the video clips that you repurpose. So if you're a little shy and you are like ready to at least dip your toe into content creation for the firm that goes beyond just the basics of, blogs or email newsletters, doing the audio only podcast while just having the video recorded just to have it is great, because your full length interview can be audio only, but when you repurpose the clips from the episode, you can have the guest be the focus of that clip. You don't have to have your own face in that clip when you start. And that does you a service because the guest is going to more likely share that content if they were in it at all, and if you ask for approval, they're more than likely to be okay with having their face shown on camera. So it's a good place to start is what I would say. And then eventually, please, yes, get the nerve to do full video, because what we are doing right now is this looks like it has been edited, but I am manually in real time, these elements that are shown on this screen are being displayed. And live streaming for your podcast can allow you to do that and save you time editing on the back end, which has been the biggest time suck for any business owner who is trying to focus on growing their show, is the post-production process. So the video is great, but if you just need to get started, audio only is a great place to start. If you don't care how you look on camera and you're comfortable, hop on StreamYard, which is what we're using right now, and start with some live streams and see how that goes.
All right. So I think podcasting, the industry, we're in the Wild West. We're like, okay,
yes.
Hi, what is a podcast? Oh, that's my favorite podcast. It's no longer here. And we are both on the East Coast. Okay. So we're in the Wild West, but you tell me, like, where do you see podcasting going? Is this going to dominate? Is this just going to be secondary to radio and TV? Is this going to be a fad? We're talking to law firms and lawyers that are maybe interested in committing, and they're hearing, it's not a small commitment, and you got to be consistent, and it might take a long time for it to click, right? So where do you see this going?
I don't see podcasting going anywhere. If anything, I see it continuing to evolve and traditional media to be replaced by it. Already locally, there's some news stations in my area that have replaced their traditional radio broadcasting with podcasting. And the cool thing about podcasting is that because it is the Wild West right now, it's an easier, like, entry point to more success for your content. So, for example, if you start a YouTube channel, which I do recommend to enhance the podcast that you have so that you actually have more reach and you're getting the most bang for your investment, bang for your buck when you do it. But if you only started a YouTube channel, somebody can go on your YouTube channel and see how many subscribers you have. But if you have a podcast and you just start with a podcast, nobody knows how many people are subscribed to your podcast. The only analytics that people can see are what you tell them. So for us, we use something called Libsyn to host the podcast. And we see how many people are listening or quote unquote downloading an episode, but nobody else does. So why is this important? You can actually use your podcast as a platform to establish yourself as a thought leader. So if you wanted to speak at a convention or you wanted to get a press pass to enter any type of conference, you can just say, hey, I have a podcast. I've interviewed some very substantial people like X, Y, and Z, and I would love to go into your event and cover it. And what that does is because you've interviewed, hopefully, some really awesome people, and they really can't see how many downloads you have if you just talk about the podcast, is that it creates more opportunities. It opens more doors for yourself than traditional media would. For my clients that I've worked with, I've gotten people to be able to go into conferences for free. And I've also gotten people to become speakers as a result of being a podcast host. It's also a great networking tool, which is the thing that is most overlooked when businesses are deciding whether or not to invest in podcasting. I've met more amazing people in this little studio apartment in Jacksonville, Florida, than I have spending time to go to a networking event and talking one-on-one. I mean, Greg, I think you can speak to that. How many people have you been able to meet and what connections have you been able to make as a result of doing your show?
Yeah. So, I mean, that's, when you get back to, are you making any money? Is it worth your time? I look at, and I actually did this the other day because I'm going to send out a newsletter. I want to make sure, all my guests are going to be on my newsletter, which is going to basically, feature like 4 of my bigger shows recently, and let people know what's going on with my shows. But one of the, am I making money? Well, yeah, I've gotten some work. I've had some people refer stuff to me, and I've actually helped some of my guests make money. My MO a lot of times is I want to promote my guests. I want my guests to feel good. So I actually meet the guests. Some of them are very interesting. Some of them I actually learn a lot from. So let's just say I want to learn about cryptocurrency, or I want to learn about a software platform or e-discovery, right? I just can look for like the biggest e-discovery person, in the food chain and say, hey, you want to come on here? I got like 10 things I really need to. I could either hire you as a consultant and you'll charge me up the wazoo, or I'll bring you on my podcast, ask you the same questions. And it works out because then you can promote the fact that you were on my show and get a benefit out of that. So, how to monetize that whole thing, it's not that easy. But the fact that I could meet Ron McGill from the Miami Zoo and Ron Book, Dennis Scholl's a recent guest. These are people, big name people in Florida, whatever. I don't think it would have ever happened, and they're nice people. And then it turns out one of them went to my high school. And so, like all of a sudden I've like had better connections, and it's not just better connections for work, making more money or whatever. It's just better connections in life. I know some interesting people, and I like to know, now when I go to Miami, I'm going to call up Ron McGill. Hey, give me a tour of the Miami Zoo. I think if I did that on my own, without ever meeting him or whatever, he'd be like, okay, go with.
He'd be like, who the heck are you?
Yeah, go with Joe Flunky. He's in charge of, giving tours or whatever, and drop a couple of dollars in the donation bucket. So it is that is one of the real, this show is like, I'm an attorney. Should I do this? Well, that is one thing. So you might say to yourself, how am I going to monetize? Am I going to get ads? Am I going to do sponsors? All these things people do. All right. Some people actually ask for money. I've seen shows where people ask, hey, to keep my show live, I need you to donate. A lot of sports radio shows, or not sports radio, but sports shows, they do that or whatever. And that's fine. And they can make a little extra money doing that. So that is one way. But I think for the law firm type, it's, the benefit of enhancing your status, your level of being an influential person might be hard to quantify. But when you go to a conference and people actually will give you a little bit more, hey, I'm interested in your opinion. Why don't you speak on this topic or whatever? That's gold as far as I'm concerned. So I want to ask you the next question.
Yes.
Smart show. Okay. Do you want now? All right. So I'm an attorney. I'm thinking about listening to this. And thank you, by the way, for doing that. And you're like, okay, I'm not paying a producer right now. I don't even know what I'm doing. Give the audience like the skinniest way to start a podcast. You mentioned Libsyn. People are like, all right, I don't want to do the YouTube channel yet. Let me just get on Apple, Spotify, whatever. What are the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 steps to actually making it a reality? And I'm talking about from recording it to publication to all that stuff.
Awesome question. Let's get right into it. So if you're not ready to invest the money in a producer and you want to get started, my recommendation is starting audio only because it is an easier way to start recording, especially if you are going to be editing it yourself or having your marketing assistant edit the podcast. So before you do anything, I would recommend getting a software. It's called Descript. We'll link it somewhere in the show notes below, but that will allow you to edit your audio in a format that feels very similar to Microsoft Word. So if you've ever edited a Word document, when you delete a word on the document, the word disappears, right? With this software, when you delete the word from the document, the audio and that word disappears. So it's a little easier to get started into editing it. So just have that in the back end because you're going to have to edit it when you first start. You're going to make mistakes and be comfortable with that. Understand that this is your first time interviewing and you need to be comfortable with making mistakes and maybe re-recording something if it's not perfect, okay? But I would recommend something as simple as 2 phones, a wired headset with a little microphone in it, and sitting down and recording with somebody in person. If you just start with someone in your own law firm. I think the mistake a lot of people make is they want to get a guest on immediately, but they haven't gotten practice in and they haven't really done what I call primed their audience. So you're starting to put out content and you're already nervous and now you're going to have this big time guest on and nobody's ever heard you talk before. Like, do a few episodes with a couple people within your practice. Do an episode about, who you are, why why do you specialize in the practice that you specialize in, just like simple things. Start with somebody, basically is what I'm trying to say. When you do your first episode, have your guest be somebody that you know or that you're close to. You can have your phone out just like this and then plug in those headsets right into your, phone and then just talk right into it. You can use something called voice memo if you have an iPhone. Android users, I'm sorry, I don't know like what the voice memo app is for your phone, but if you have a version of that on your phone, that's great. And just start recording that way. If that's too much for you, hop on Zoom, guys. You're all on Zoom for like virtual depositions or, virtual meetings all day. Start going on Zoom calls and tell yourself that, okay, we're going to start with 15-minute interviews. I think another big mistake is when people hear the word podcast, they think, oh my gosh, I have to record this 45-minute, 50-minute, 2-hour expose about, no. Start with the goal of recording a 15-minute interview and see what happens, right? So you have the software ready to go. You've recorded either on your phone or on Zoom. Take it, chop it up, do what you need to do, clean up the audio. And then I would recommend you have to now make cover art. So what cover art is basically, for all of those who remember iTunes and listening to music on iPods and stuff, cover art is just a little graphic that has the name of your show and, like your host name, for example, right? I would recommend using something called Canva. If you're not using it already for your law firm, oh my gosh, please use it. It makes designing stuff so much easier. And right in Canva, you can type in a template podcast cover art and then just drag and drop whatever it is that you want on your logo for your cover art. The mistakes that people make with their cover art is sometimes they'll make the show only their name. So for example, Greg, if you had come to me and told me, "Hey Rita, my podcast name is the Greg Goldfarb Show," I'd be like, let's fix that because nobody knows who Greg Goldfarb is yet. uh, I meant like 5 years ago when you first started is what I mean, like on the podcast.
Oh boy.
But right now you have a great show. You have a show called Cut to the Chase podcast, and you can say it's hosted by Greg Goldfarb. That's fine. But I think what people make, the mistake that they make, is they see the titles like Joe Rogan Show or Oprah Winfrey Show, and they think like that's it. They have no real theme to what they're like. They're just talking. It's just them talking, right? What I like about your show, Greg, is you have a little bit of a theme here. It's like we are getting, clear on the legal issues or, things that are happening politically in the environment, and we're cutting to the chase. And you are the legal expert on that. Like, that is a great way to position your show. So, yeah, maybe right before you record, think about those things and then try to implement that into the cover art that you're creating. And yeah, I would say,
what about Libsyn? What about Libsyn? Where does that fit in?
Libsyn? Yeah, so Libsyn. So the thing that's a little different with podcasting is it's not just like Facebook. Like if I make a Facebook post, I can record a video and just post it on Facebook, and my Facebook post is live, right? With podcasting, it has to be, it's a fancy word. It's called syndicated. But long story short, you're creating your own feed of content that's going to be sent to all the platforms. Because the number one question I get is, okay, Rita, I recorded an episode. How do I put it on Apple? How do I put my episode on Apple? How do I put it on Spotify? All of those places require you to have a host in order for you to send your content to those platforms. So for us, we use Libsyn, which is a platform that does require like a monthly fee, but it's really awesome because you can upload your episode in one spot and it will automatically upload it to all the major podcast players. So uploading it one time versus 6 or 7 or 8 times for every podcast platform and then some that is created every day, right? So basically, that's the other cool thing with podcasting too, is you can have one piece of content shared across multiple platforms rather than having to create different pieces of content that go on different platforms, essentially. And now with StreamYard, you can double that reach because StreamYard actually allows you to live stream directly to many places at the same time. I'll actually show you this. So if I hit live stream and we're hitting the stream, eventually your podcast could also go automatically to YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, all these places just at one time. So you need to decide what's your medium. And if you're just doing audio, Libsyn will be the platform to do that. But if you're also doing video, I would consider using this platform, StreamYard, to stream to those multiple places at the same time.
All right. So I'm thinking about it. I'm tempted. I got to spend a little money. I got to do these platforms that cost monthly and all that. All right. I'm going to do that. Now my question is, what am I going to talk about? Do I have a guest? Some shows don't have guests and it's just the person talking. Does that work? Do you need a guest? I mean, you get a guest. One guest could be good. One guest could be what's your take on all that? Could you do both?
I think you could do both, but what I practice and preach is if you want it to be successful for your business, having a guest on your show is going to expand the reach of your show. But also, I'm going to ask this question if you're listening. How much money would you spend to be able to have a dinner or a sales call with somebody that you really want to do business with? When it comes to marketing, like if you could sit there and be like, man, I really want to interview this guy from this company or whatever, how much money would you spend to do that? Or imagine how much money you would spend to have, like you said earlier, a coaching call with somebody that you really want to learn from. And what if instead of that money going for their initiatives, you invested in your podcast and you can actually invite them on your show and have a direct conversation with them. So if you want to do podcasting, I think that this is a really great time to do it now before it gets so big that you don't have the same level of impact. Statistically, actually, most shows don't get past 75% of shows don't get past episode 7. So if you create 50 episodes, you're already potentially in the top 10% of podcasts out there because most people start them and then drop them. Why does that matter? Because your name will start popping up. And I think it's worth the investment if you don't want to sit down and wonder, how am I going to have a meeting with this person that I really want to do business with? And what the heck am I going to post today?
Yeah. All right. So do you have any idea how many podcasts there are right now?
How many podcasts exist? There are like a million, but most of them are not active, which is why it's really cool. Yeah. The activity level has gone down since 2020 because most people went back to whatever they were doing before, but listenership has gone up. One more thing I want to point out that's important is when you decide audio or video, is your target audience more likely going to sit down and watch your episodes, or are they more likely to listen to your show on the go? So, for example, there's another podcast that I produce for women in business, and that target clientele has expressed they prefer audio because there are a lot of working moms who don't have time to sit down and watch the full YouTube video, but they're listening to the content passively while they're going about their day. So, yes, we talked about the you part of it, you as a creator, what's best for you. But I think, like you said earlier, Greg, you have to do the research and also think about what's best for that potential audience as well, so that you are serving them.
All right. So this is a random thought. I was actually talking to somebody today and they're 78 years old and they were telling me they're going to go to the Sphere and watch the Dead End Company or whatever. And I was like, wow, that's amazing or whatever. And I was thinking to myself, it's just so amazing. I've seen so many concerts and I've grown a little sour on it over the years. But I did see YouTube at the Sphere, which was amazing. I was like, I could not believe.
I saw that on your Instagram. It looked wild. It was so cool looking.
I had no idea. I was at a conference and one of these marketers or whatever that owed me a lot of favors. I'm like, you will comp me on something here in Vegas. And sure enough, he did. He got me into the YouTube show, whatever. But I was talking to the gentleman that, my buddy that is going, and I was like, yeah, that's great. You're 78, you're going or whatever. And I was telling him I don't really go to concerts anymore because what do you like when you go to a concert? I love the music, maybe I do, but the groups that I would go to see are older, and I'm like, why do I even want to sit there and watch them? And it's almost the same thing with, okay, do I want to have a video? Do I want to go live? Why do people? I find it kind of interesting that people still actually do like to look at you, even though, I'm not like, listen, if I was, I'm not going to say it, but if I was a lot better looking, I think I probably would have more views. I'm just speculating out there, but
I don't agree personally, but okay.
And we've been talking about this pretty regularly lately, all about it. So I guess my question to you is, if you don't have anything visual to show, is it still something worthy of showing?
Yeah. So if you don't have a visual show, I think that you can still create intrigue in your audio only podcast if you are doing the research and asking good questions. Because I think the thing that people most forget about is that as humans, like, we tell stories and we learn from stories. If you were to go to a bar and sit down next to some random person and they told you an amazing story, those are the stories that you tell other people and that you remember. So it's important when you are doing your content to make sure that you ask questions that hopefully tell a story so that somebody actually connects to what you're saying. I always like to tell people that if you are having a conversation with somebody and by the end of the conversation you didn't feel anything, like, did you leave excited? Did you leave inspired? You really have to infuse those types of questions into the conversations. And I think when people do business podcasts specifically, they ask the tactical questions, but they forget to kind of just like have the human side of what you're talking about. So for example, maybe instead of asking on an audio only show, especially to really paint the picture, instead of asking, what do you do for a living, you as the host can kind of break it down and say, hey, thanks for being on the show today. We understand that you are top CEO of this marketing company. We're going to put your information in the show notes below. Instead of asking you what you do, I would like to ask you, why do you do what you do? What inspired you to get into the business that you're in today? And I think that key question, for example, what inspired you, is going to create a more engaging response, because it's hopefully going to create a story driven response. And stories are also the best clips. Like if I'm going to watch a short or a clip on YouTube, if someone's telling me a story, I'm more likely to sit around and watch than only the informational side of it. So I would say when you are outlining and getting ready for your podcast episode, have 6 to 7 questions ready in advance and make about 3 or 4 of those questions emotionally driven or story driven stories, and the rest tactical, focused on educating your audience.
All right. So now I'm the lawyer thinking of doing this. Maybe I'm in another line of work, and I'm like, you convinced me, I give it a shot. So I do recording. I'm going to go with Zoom because I know Zoom. I get this script, which allows me to take out things that I don't want, and I get listed to get me syndicated onto Apple, Spotify, and all. How how do I get people to watch or listen to my show? And this
Great.
is a question for you, producer.
Yes. How do I get people to listen to my show? Well, you need to market and promote your show. So I think what a lot of people do when they first start out is they will create the episode, they will post it, and then they will just leave it. And they'll think, okay, great. I recorded my interview. It's done now. Well, the truth is it's not done. It's ready to be even more promoted from there. So I would recommend using your podcast as a pillar, if you will, for your content. So have a conversation like Greg and I are having right now, and try to repurpose it into 2 or 3 clips that you can post on a couple of your platforms. For businesses, I recommend posting on LinkedIn, because I think LinkedIn is a really great place where businesses are networking and talking to each other all the time. And also, if you want to grow your personal brand as well, too, it's a great place to do that as well. And then any other platforms that you have, just to try to expand the reach, like Instagram or Facebook. But I think the other platform that people most forget about is YouTube. YouTube is a huge tool for discoverability on your podcast, because it's the number 2 search engine out there. Google owns it. The things that you type into YouTube are searchable. For example, if I have to go figure out how to edit a clip and I need to do so or whatever, I'm most likely going to watch a video about how to do it. How do I edit this clip? Google will give me an answer. And if I find a YouTube video, I'm going to watch the YouTube video. So what I mean by that is make your podcast titles searchable. Make them something that somebody actually wants to learn about or be interested in. If you and I are having a conversation about podcasting for law firms, don't make the title why Rita likes, the purple, blue versus green or whatever. It's something that has nothing to do with a conversation whatsoever. So growing your show and getting more views is a combination of posting in the right places and creating the right titles, and then also show notes. People forget that when you do an episode, that you actually can generate a transcript from your episode, or you can write show notes to have as an outline for what was discussed. Why does that matter? Well, you can paste those show notes as a LinkedIn status. You can paste those show notes as an Instagram caption. You can paste those show notes in your YouTube description. And those are all SEO opportunities for your content. All the words that you put in there, everything that you say in an episode has the potential to be found by somebody. So if you are only recording and you're just posting it on Libsyn or YouTube and making just some kind of vague title and being done with it, you're not going to get the most reach. But if you are focusing on the types of guests that you're getting, making great titles, and repurposing and posting your content to YouTube, including YouTube Shorts. Don't forget about that. That's a whole thing now. You're going to get more potential views on your show. And the thing, though, that I would really want to remind, especially as an attorney who's potentially listening to this podcast, is that in the beginning, you're going to want to be very hyper-focused on views, but I want to urge you to focus on the connections that you are making and the brand that you are building as a result of using your podcast as a tool to do that. And if you start that way, you're going to be in the game for longer. But if you think after episode 3 or 4, you're going to go viral, it's not going to be a tool best suited for you.
Yeah, no, you got to be ready for the long game. All right, I'm going to ask you 3 concluding questions. First, talk to me about a couple of the shows that you are producing. Then I want to hear your favorite podcast that you listen to or watch. And then I want to hear the 2 things as a producer that keep you up at night.
Okay, we'll start with the 2 things that keep me up at night as a producer because those are, I can remember those. I think about them every night. One, as a producer, if you as a host aren't having a good time on your episode, the audience and the guest are going to be able to tell. I can add all the bells and whistles that I want to your episode, but as a host, if you are not ready and excited and engaged and asking the right questions, there's only so much that we can do, which is why I want to be able to work with somebody rather than be treated as just an editor. Like, here you go, here's a piece of content, go make it good, right? So that's one thing. The other thing, for the love of God, please have some type of microphone. Like, it's a podcast. I can't tell you. Greg has one. He's got his microphone. He's good. Like, if you're gonna have a podcast, like, at least try to have a microphone of some sort, and don't, like, ask your guests to be ready when they're on the show. I've had guests that have been eating on interviews and then have asked me to, like, edit it out and stuff. Like, I'm not a Marvel movie producer. I can't CGI out the food that you're eating or whatever. Like, all this crazy stuff. I can't make your upper lip look larger. Like, there's only so much that I can do as a producer. So please keep that in mind with your content, those are just a couple of funny things that keep me up at night. Back to the shows that I'm producing. I'm producing a few shows that I'm really excited about right now with my team. This show being one of them, but of course, there's a couple more. Right now, I'm producing a show for the Intermountain Foundation. It's for women, tech, and entrepreneurs, and it's called The Climb, and it highlights female CEOs and tech and e-commerce, and talks about their story about why they founded their business. The company running it is a pretty large company based out of China. It's like Amazon's version over there. It's called DH Gate. But I'm very excited about it because as a woman, as a female producer, and as a woman in business, it's really cool to be able to get to share those stories. On the flip side, another show that I'm producing is called Deep Specialization Podcast, and it's for agency owners who are trying to market their business and really grow their business. It's hosted by the former CMO, Chief Marketing Officer of Scorpion, and he's an author as well. His name is Corey Quinn. And then there's a couple more things that I'm doing specifically to the legal space. There's a podcast I'm producing called Hot Docket, and it's 2 fellas that have a very awesome law firm marketing agency based out of New York. And shout out to the episode that we might see somebody familiar on it, maybe potentially. And it's really fun because it brings together a lot of attorneys who talk about their practice, what they do, and it's just like a really great resource for that. So if you are listening and you want even more knowledge and even more content, the Hot Docket podcast might be for you. I've produced some other shows in the past, like I've said, but those are the few right now that come top of mind that would be potentially relevant to this conversation. I will shout out my own personal podcast because that's kind kind of how I started learning about podcasting at that other agency. It's called Bippity Boppity Business, and it's a Disney business podcast. It actually just won an award this year for 2024 Best
Wow.
Business Advice Podcast, and I'm very excited about it. And it combines the like storytelling, branding, and all the tips that that I want to learn, that I want to have conversations with people about with business. So I don't know how many of you attorneys are secretly Disney fans out there, but I know there's one or two of you that go with your family maybe. And if you like the business behind Disney, that's the podcast that I produce currently. So I've gotten to meet some awesome people from it. I actually got to fly out to LA last year and interviewed a director and an animator, and that was like a once in a lifetime opportunity, and it was so cool. So I geek out on this. I do it because I love it, not because I want to sell anybody or just make money from it. I do it because I love it. And when I get to share that with the business owners that I work with, it really makes my day. It's truly what I feel I was called to with life.
And your favorite one to listen to aside from mine?
Yes, it's called Q by Tom Powers. It's a really cool podcast. He interviews a lot of celebrities, but it gives you a look into a side of the celebrities that we know and love that we don't actually get to see. It's really calm, and he asks good questions. So I like it because it's entertaining, but also I love the questions that he asks. So if you're looking to be a better host, I think that podcast is a great recommendation for you to listen to.
Okay, now I'm going to end this show with a tip on how to get guests.
Let's do it.
Okay, Rita, I would like you to come back on my show and talk about your podcast. Would you do that? Wonderful.
Yes,
Okay.
Greg, I would. Yes.
And what about getting the first show you mentioned with the female entrepreneurs? Why don't you maybe even do a promote slot? They come online, I go on there.
Yes, let's do it. Let's do it.
There's 2 more shows. Okay. All right. So I apologize to out there. I know there's a little echo. It's the first time I use StreamYard. First thing Rita said to me, and one thing that you have to do if you have to turn off notifications. I turned off the notifications on my computer, but I didn't on this. So now, because it's StreamYard the first time, I have 2 of I'm looking at myself twice, and you're hearing the echo.
We only see you once, but yes, that'll be my ending tip is before you record, make sure, like in the movie theaters, please silence your cell phone and all of your devices. Enjoy the show.
No, turn off.
Turn it off.
Okay, for you those that were out there, and I hope you enjoyed the show, and maybe this will help you make your decision, enhance your life, enhance my views. I'm sorry, I had to put it. That'll be it.
You have to throw in your own plug. You are a true podcaster, Greg.
I know, that's terrible. All right, that'll do it for this episode of Cut to the Chase. Go to my YouTube channel, put on comments, questions. Maybe you want to ask Rita something down the road. We could talk about, do you have a website for the podcast? How do you use Instagram? What's a short? Blah, 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 promoting it, all that kind of stuff.
All right, sounds good. And if you want to stay in touch with me, I'm on LinkedIn, Rita Richa. It looks like cha, but it's a sha, just like how it's spelled below. You can look it up and we can connect and let's talk podcasts.
All right, so that's Rita Richa. All these episodes, all these podcasts we just talked about, Hot Topic, Rita, the others, we're going to put these in the show notes, just script, listen. I mean, there are other alternatives, but you can at least, check those out. All right, folks. That's it. Goodbye.
That's all for this episode of Cut to the Chase. But before you go, will you open up your podcast app and give us a 5-star review? You can also leave a comment about what you liked most or other topics you'd like us to cover. And please be sure to subscribe so you don't miss any upcoming shows. Thanks, everybody. Be safe out there.